What's going on, everyone? It's Chris Durham here with Fathom Realty. Really glad you could join me today. So as we're approaching the end of the year, as you can see with my Christmas tree, we're about a week away from Christmas and I'm super excited. But I want to go ahead and give you my predictions for the year 2022. Right, so those see our predictions, or my predictions at least, from what I've studied and what I've been looking at, just doing research and analyzing everything, because that's my personality. I love to be in the books, I love to study, I like the numbers. But I'd like to keep it simplified as well. So I want to keep it simplified for you and just kind of give you the basics and what you need to understand for what's going to be happening next year, what I believe is going to be happening, and what a lot of experts believe as well. So to understand exactly what's going to happen next year, we have to understand kind of what happened this last year, 2 years. So obviously COVID happened, right? And that took everyone by surprise. And honestly, people did not know that the housing market was going to be this great, at least for sellers. You know, it's been tough for buyers. Understand that, trying to find a home. But there's an upside for the buyers. Interest rates have been at a record low, and they're still low, but not for long. They're still going to be low in comparison to history, but comparison to maybe last year when we were sub threes, things are going to be looking a little bit different. And so what caused this increase in sales in the last year? Because, you know, once COVID happened, well, there's a few things, right? First, one is the inventory. Inventory has been super low. So when COVID first came out, obviously no one wanted to sell their house because they didn't want people inside their house. They didn't know what was going on. Obviously, and rightfully so, a lot of people were scared. But you know, we've kind of, especially down in Florida, we've gone way past that, and the market has exploded. But inventory is still at a record low. It's still super low. Here in Royal Palm Beach, where I live at, we have less than a month's supply of inventory. So what does that mean? It means that if no homes were listed and within a month, less than a month, at least single family homes, all those homes would be off the market and there'd be no homes available to buy. So you can see the inventory is super low. 3 months it would be considered low inventory still, and we have less than a month in Royal Palm, and that's in different areas. In Palm Beach Gardens, I believe is like just 1.1 months of supply. In other areas, you know, I focus here in the Royal Palm Beach area, the Western Palm Beach area. But you can see that the inventory is super low. What does that mean, right? Supply and demand. So demand is high, right? Demand is high, there's not a lot of supply, so prices have gone up. They've gone up tremendously in the last year. And so number two is, why is the demand high? Well, demand is high simply because interest rates are super low, right? Basically, banks are giving out money saying, hey, we're gonna give you $300,000, $400,000, and all you have to do is pay us back at 2.5% interest, 3% interest. I mean, if we go back into the 80s, we're looking 8, 9. I believe in the 90s it was almost 12%. So people buying houses now, they don't realize how high interest rates have historically been, and in the last decade they've been really, really low. Even at 4 or 5%, that's considerably low when we look at the expansion of history and the housing market. So that brings me next year. Is that going to change next year? Probably not. There's going to be a few things that are going to change, but what exactly? Well, inventory at this point is still low, and it's probably going to be low getting into next year, which means there's going to be still a lot of competition to buy some houses, right? As we're towards the end of the year, but this is about the second best winter market, which the first best was last year, that there's been in about a decade, or in the last 15 years. So the market is still strong here, at least if you're selling a house, and there's still some competition if you want to find a nice, good house. There's definitely some competition going into it, right? Still multiple offers. Now you might see things sitting on the market. A lot of people have been overpricing their homes. I think what we're going to see is we're going to stop seeing that overpricing next year, and things are going to start leveling out a little bit. So we're not going to see that increase in prices that we've been seeing these last few years, or I would say the last 2 years. We're not going to see that crazy increase, but it's going to start stabilizing a little bit. You'll probably see an increase of maybe 3% over the year, as opposed to what we saw last year, 18%, which is it was just absolutely nuts in a good way. Especially if you owned a house or if you were selling. I mean, you saw your equity go up. Now, Why don't I believe there's going to be a bubble? Oh, well, let's backtrack, right? Because inventory, I still believe is going to be low. Right now, we still don't have a lot. It's in the end of time. This is typically time when a lot of people they're busy, right? Christmas shopping, spending time with family, traveling. Now, next year, are people going to start selling the house? Well, possibly. But we'll see, because a lot of people aren't selling the houses because they don't have a place to go. Because inventory is low, they know it's competitive, and they have no place to go. Now, I think inventory will pick up a little bit. I think a lot of people are going to want to pull out their equity, sell their houses. Things have been changing, obviously. And then number two, what's going to happen next year is interest rates have already started to go back up. I think they're going to creep up nice and slowly. And I think buyers are going to still want to take advantage of the low rates as soon as they start seeing them creep up. And they're already started to creep up now. Towards the end of next year, they expect it to be around 3.5%. So you still have some time, but you never know. Things could change in a heartbeat, right? This isn't an exact science. Anything could change in the market. No one expected what happened the last 2 years to happen, but they happen. And we just kind of roll with the flows. But predicting the market and seeing what I've been seeing, next year, if you think the bubble's going to crash, it is probably not going to crash, right? And I know you said, well, the forbearances have ended, right? So let's go ahead and I want to kind of put this myth at bay, kind of knock it down. So forbearances, yes, they've stopped, but we have to understand too what's happened the last few years. People who did own homes who maybe got out of work, most people are back at work, right? I think we've matched unemployment from before COVID, which is, I believe, we're at 5% or so. That brings us into the forbearance. So they're going to end, but most people who are in forbearance, I believe 78% have at least 20% of equity. Now, out of that 78, almost close to 80%, 25% of those people have over 50% in equity. So you're not going to see a bunch of foreclosures, right? If they do need to sell, they will simply sell. They're not going to be underwater, so we're not going to have this slew of people just hitting foreclosures and needing to owe the bank and needing to do short sales, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Why? Because equity has increased over these last few years. And let's face it, people who are buying houses right now most likely are working, or else they wouldn't be able to buy a house. So they're not going to be in risk of foreclosure or anything. They didn't lose their jobs. The people who do not have jobs don't have jobs, and they're not buying houses, right? Hopefully they get some jobs. There's a lot of job openings, and hopefully that changes. Hopefully more people are getting employed, but that would probably just bring a bigger boom to the housing market. So just for those reasons, this housing market is not going to blow up. It's not going to come crashing down. Like I said, I believe it's going to be a nice steady incline. It's going to go up a lot slower. It's not going to be that streamlined. But this is Chris. These are my predictions for 2022. Maybe you think something different, and that's okay. But I've been looking at the numbers. I see what the market is doing. I understand how much equity people have. I mean, we're in South Florida where our economy wasn't shut down for long. So there might be some areas that it might be a little bit different, but in general, real estate is such a market to market type of thing that we can't really predict what's gonna happen in Florida by looking at Arizona. But here in Florida, we're a little bit different where we weren't shut down. People been working for a long time here. And honestly, there's been a slew of new people buying houses. Those people are obviously working. And so this thing with the bubble going to happen, let's say inventory is most likely going to be low still, which means it's going to end. And mortgage rates are going to be low. They're going to be creeping up a little bit, still going to be low. And I think people are going to want to take advantage of that when they see prices are not dropping. So guess what? We're still going to have a pretty busy market. And then number three, most people that are in the forbearance, right? They have to own a house to be in forbearance, right? Either going to use different programs to make up the payments, or they're simply sell their house. They have so much equity, they're not in risk of foreclosing or anything like that, and they have time to actually put their house on the market, sell it, and probably still make a profit. And so can we see some inventory rise up? Absolutely. And this is why I think it's going to start to normalize, but is it going to crash? Is it going to blow up? Are house prices going to come tumbling down? Absolutely not. And I hope this was a little bit helpful to you. Hopefully it wasn't too much information. I hope you guys were able to get the gist of it. And I appreciate you guys tuning in today. This is Chris Durham, and I'm out.